The wind on Planet Borealis didn't just blow, it screamed, a high-pitched wail that sounded like a million glass shards grinding together. Ronin adjusted the seal on his helmet, checking the heads-up display. The temperature was dropping, -60 degrees and falling. Standard operating procedure for a human scout in this sector was to hunker down, dig a snow hole, and pray the thermal batteries lasted until the storm passed. But Ronin wasn't hunkering down. His scanner had picked up a faint distress beacon, a rhythmic pulse that was barely audible over the static of the ion storm. He pushed forward, his mag boots crunching through the crust of ice that covered the waist-deep snow. His thermal suit, a bulky, ugly piece of human engineering, was the only thing keeping his blood from turning into slush. It hummed softly, a comforting vibration against his skin, recycling his body heat and amplifying it. Humans were rare in the cryosector. The native species, the Glacians, viewed the cold with a sort of religious reverence, while humans viewed it as an enemy to be beaten into submission. The beacon led him to a ravine, a jagged scar in the white landscape. There, half buried in an avalanche, was a sleek silver transport. It wasn't military, it was too elegant, too curved. It looked like a teardrop frozen in time. Ronin slid down the embankment, triggering a small cascade of ice. He reached the airlock, prying it open with the hydraulic assist of his exoskeleton. The interior was dark, the emergency lighting flickering with a dying amber glow. The temperature inside was only marginally better than outside. He found her in the rear compartment. She was curled into a ball, strapped into a crash seat that had been torn from its mountings. She was a Glacian, tall and slender, with skin the color of pale glacial ice and hair that shimmered like spun silver. Her ornate robes, clearly ceremonial, were shredded, offering zero protection against the encroaching freeze. Her eyes were closed, her long blue-tinted lashes frosted over. Ronin knelt beside her, checking for a pulse. It was faint, fluttering like a trapped bird. She was hypothermic, on the edge of the long sleep from which Glacians never woke. "Hey," Ronin grunted, tapping her cheek. "Wake up, you can't sleep here." Her eyes fluttered open. They were violet, deep and endless, filled with a confusion that quickly bled into resignation. She looked at him, at his bulky, scarred armor, and whispered something in the musical, whistling language of her people. The translator in Ronin's helmet crackled. "Cold. So cold. Let me fade." "Not on my watch," Ronin growled. He looked around. The life support was dead. The reactor was breached. There was no heat source. He checked his comms, dead static. The storm was blocking any extraction signal. They were stuck here for the night, and she wouldn't last an hour. He looked at his suit readings. External temp and 75, internal suit temp 98.6. Battery life 12 hours. If he stayed in the suit, he lived. If he tried to carry her, she'd freeze before they made it 10 feet. There was only one option. It was stupid, it was suicidal, it was human. Ronin unsealed his helmet. The air hit his face like a physical blow, freezing the moisture in his nose instantly. He gasped, his lungs burning. What are you doing?" the Glacian woman whispered, her voice barely audible. "Saving your life," Ronin said through chattering teeth. He stripped off his gauntlets, then hit the quick release on his chest plate. The heavy thermal armor hissed as it opened. He peeled himself out of the undersuit, the warm, gel-lined fabric that was the real lifesaver. He was left in just his thermal base layer, a thin black fabric that offered no protection against the killing cold. The cold was a physical weight, crushing him instantly. He grabbed the shivering woman, pulling her forward. "Put this on, now." She stared at him, her violet eyes wide with shock. You cannot. You have no fur. You have no scales. You are soft flesh. You will die." "I'm stubborn," Ronin snapped, his body already starting to shake uncontrollably. "Put it on." He forced her limbs into the suit. It was oversized for her slender frame, but as soon as he sealed it, the thermal units kicked in. He saw her eyes widen as the rush of recycled heat hit her skin. The color began to return to her cheeks, a soft lavender flush. "Better?" Ronin asked, his voice shaking. "Warm," she breathed, looking at him with an expression he couldn't read. "It is burning." "Good," Ronin muttered. He grabbed a survival blanket from his pack, a flimsy sheet of reflective foil, and wrapped it around himself. It was a joke against this cold. He curled up in the corner of the cabin as far from the breach as possible. "Wake me when the storm stops." But he knew he wouldn't wake up. The cold was already seeping into his bones, turning his blood thick and sluggish. His vision blurred. He watched the Glacian woman staring at him from inside his suit. She looked like a child wearing her father's armor. She reached out a hand toward him, but he couldn't feel it. The darkness came not as a frightening void, but as a warm, inviting sleep. He closed his eyes, thinking that at least he'd gone out doing something decent. The dream was strange. He wasn't cold. He was floating in a cloud of warmth, surrounded by a scent that smelled like ozone and crushed lilacs. Something soft was brushing against his skin, rhythmic and soothing. He heard voices, melodic and distant, speaking in hushed tones. Heartbeat is stabilizing. Ooh, impossible resilience. He gave everything. Ronin forced his eyes open. The light was soft, filtered through panels of translucent crystal. He wasn't in the crashed ship. He wasn't in a medbay. He was lying in a bed large enough to sleep a squad of Marines, buried under a mountain of furs, thick white furs, softer than anything he had ever touched. They were warm, incredibly warm. He tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness pushed him back. His body felt heavy, aching but alive. He flexed his fingers, 10 fingers. Oh, frostbite. How was that possible? Do not move, a voice came from the shadows. Your core temperature is still stabilizing. Ronin squinted. Standing at the foot of the bed was the woman from the crash. But she wasn't the shivering, dying waif he'd pulled from the wreckage. She stood tall, regal, wearing a gown of shimmering frost silk that trailed on the floor. On her head rested a circlet of woven ice crystals that pulsed with a faint inner light. You made it, Ronin croaked. His voice sounded like he'd swallowed gravel. We made it, she corrected, moving to the side of the bed. Her movement was fluid, graceful. She reached out and placed a cool hand on his forehead. Because of you. Where am I? Ronin asked, looking around the room. The walls were carved from ice, but the air was comfortable. You are in the crystal spire of Ethelgard, she said. I am Elara, and you, Ronin, are the first human to ever set foot in the Royal Sanctum. Royal, of course. Just his luck. He hadn't saved a random traveler, he'd saved royalty. My suit, Ronin mumbled, his brain still catching up. I need my suit, it's government property. The sergeant is going to kill me if I lost it. Elara laughed, a sound like wind chimes. Your suit is being repaired and cleaned, but I think you will find the accommodations here adequate. She sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped slightly under her weight. Why did you do it, Ronin? You knew you would freeze. Humans are not built for our world. You have no natural defenses. Ronin shrugged, pulling the furs tighter around his chest. Where I come from, we don't leave people behind. Doesn't matter if you're human or Glacian. You were dying. I was, she admitted softly. Her violet eyes locked onto his. I felt the heat of your suit, it was intense. But when the rescue team arrived, they found you curled around my feet trying to share the last of your body heat even as you froze. They had to pry us apart. She leaned closer. The scent of lilacs was stronger now. My physicians say it is a miracle you are alive. Your heart stopped twice on the transport. But then, it just started again. They say your biology is chaotic, stubborn. We're hard to kill. Ronin grinned weakly, clearly. Elara's gaze dropped to his chest, which was bare where the furs had slipped down. You gave me your shell, your protection. In my culture, this is a debt that can never be fully repaid. It is a bond of life. Don't worry about it, Ronin said, feeling a sudden awkwardness. Just get me a transport back to the outpost when I can walk. No, Elara said firmly. You are my guest, and there are complications. Complications? Ronin didn't like the sound of that. Complications usually involved blasters. My crash was not an accident, Elara said, her face hardening. It was sabotage. There are factions within the court who believe I am too weak to rule. They tampered with my transport stabilizers. They expected me to freeze in the wastes. They did not expect a human to intervene. Ronin sighed, sinking back into the pillows. So I'm in the middle of a royal coup. Great, just great. You are not in the middle, Elara corrected. You are the center. The court is terrified of you. Terrified? I was a popsicle yesterday. To them, you are a creature of fire, she explained. You survived the White Death without a shell. You gave your life source to the princess and returned from the dead. They call you the Ember-Heart. And right now my enemies are unsure if you are a man or a monster sent by the ancients. I'm just a guy named Ronin, he muttered. To me, perhaps, Elara said, her hand sliding down to rest over his heart. Her palm was cool, a stark contrast to his fever-warm skin. But to them, you are a message, and I need you to deliver it. The doors to the chamber opened and a procession of servants entered, carrying trays of food and garments. But these weren't standard-issue jumpsuits. They were heavy fur-lined tunics, velvet trousers, and cloaks made from the pelts of snow beasts. "Get up, Ronin," Elara said, standing. "The High Council has summoned us. They want to see the alien who defied the storm." Ronin groaned, swinging his legs out of bed. His muscles screamed in protest, but he stood. He towered over the servants. He washed quickly in a basin of warm water, then let them dress him. The clothes were magnificent. The furs were heavy, comforting, and smelled of wealth. He felt ridiculous, but also powerful. When he was dressed, Elara stepped back to admire him. "You look like a warlord of the southern ice," she mused. "I feel like a pampered bear," Ronin grumbled. She offered him her arm. "Come, let us show them what human stubbornness looks like." The council chamber was a vast amphitheater of ice, chilled to a temperature that would have made Ronin shiver if not for the layers of royal furs. Hundreds of Glacians watched from the tiered seats. In the center stood the High Council, 12 elders with skin like wrinkled parchment. And standing apart from them was Lord Vrax. Ronin knew a villain when he saw one. Vrax was tall, sharper than the others, with eyes that looked like chips of flint. He radiated arrogance. "Princess Elara," Vrax boomed, his voice echoing off the ice walls. "We are relieved to see you return. We feared the storm had claimed you." "The storm tried, Lord Vrax," Elara replied, her voice cool and steady. "But I had protection," she gestured to Ronin. The room went silent. Ronin stood with his feet apart, hands clasped behind his back, trying to look imposing rather than tired. He could feel the stares. They were looking at him like he was a bomb that might go off. "This human," Vrax sneered, though he took a half-step back. "We heard reports. You claim he survived the exposure." "He did not just survive," Elara declared. "He gave his thermal skin to me. He faced the White Death naked and lived to tell the tale. He possesses a fire within him that your ice cannot extinguish." Vrax narrowed his eyes. "A tall tale. Humans are frail. Soft. He is likely a mercenary you hired to stage a rescue, to bolster your failing popularity." Ronin stepped forward. The movement was sudden and the guards flinched. "I'm not hired, pal. And if you think I'm frail, why don't you come over here and test that theory?" Vrax bristled. "Insolence, you speak to a high lord." "I speak to the guy who sabotaged a ship," Ronin said calmly. The accusation hung in the air like a guillotine blade. "Yeah, I know about the stabilizers. Human tech might look ugly to you, but my scanners picked up the magnetic residue on the wreckage. You didn't just want her dead. You wanted it to look like an accident." The crowd murmured. Vrax's face turned a darker shade of blue. "You dare accuse me? I demand a trial of chill. If you are truly stronger than the storm human, prove it." Elara gasped. "No. The trial of chill is a duel to the death in the arena of winds. No thermal gear, no weapons. Only the cold and the will." "He accepts," Ronin said. Elara spun to face him. "Ronin, are you mad? You barely survived yesterday." "Trust me," Ronin whispered, winking at her. "I've got an idea." The arena of winds was exactly what it sounded like. A pit open to the sky where the winds swirled in a vortex. Vrax stripped off his ceremonial robes, revealing a body covered in thick natural armored scales. He was built for this cold. He didn't need a suit. Ronin took off the royal furs layer by layer, until he was back in the thin tunic and trousers the servants had given him. He shivered, the cold biting immediately, but he focused on his breathing. He focused on the anger. "Prepare to freeze, human," Vrax taunted, circling him. "My blood is ice, yours will shatter." Vrax lunged, his movements fast and fluid. Ronin dodged, but the cold was slowing him down. Vrax struck him in the ribs, a blow that knocked the wind out of him. Ronin rolled, coming up on one knee. He was losing heat fast. He needed to end this now. He remembered what Elara had said. "To them, you are a creature of fire." Humans were inefficient. They wasted energy as heat. In this environment, that was a weakness. But in a grapple? Vrax lunged again, aiming for a grapple to crush Ronin's spine. This time, Ronin didn't dodge. He stepped into the attack. He wrapped his arms around the Glacian lord, locking his hands in a vice grip behind Vrax's back. He pulled the alien tight against his chest. Vrax laughed. "You fool! You trap yourself." But then Vrax stopped laughing. He hissed. He writhed. "Too hot?" Ronin gritted out, squeezing tighter. To a Glacian whose body temperature was just above freezing, contact with a human core temperature of 98.6 degrees was agonizing. It was like being hugged by a burning stove. Ronin buried his face in Vrax's neck, exhaling hot air against the sensitive scales. "Burn," Ronin whispered. Vrax screamed. It wasn't a scream of fear, but of physical shock. His physiology couldn't handle the localized heat shock. His systems panicked. He flailed, trying to push Ronin away, but Ronin held on with the desperate strength of a man who had survived worse than this. "Yield," Ronin shouted. "Get off, get off!" "It burns," Vrax shrieked. I yield." Ronin let go. Vrax stumbled back, clutching his chest, gasping for air. His skin flushed a sickly violet where they had touched. He looked at Ronin with pure, unadulterated horror. Ronin stood there, shivering violently, his lips blue, but he was the one standing. He looked up at the council. "Anyone else want a hug?" he asked. Silence. Then a roar of approval from the crowd. The Glacians respected endurance above all else, and they had just watched a soft-skinned alien burn a High Lord with nothing but his own blood. Elara was at his side in seconds, wrapping the royal furs back around him. "You are insane," she whispered, her eyes shining with tears and triumph. "I'm just really cold," Ronin chattered. She guided him out of the arena, his arm draped over her shoulders. "Come, we must get your temperature up. I have the perfect remedy." "Is it hot chocolate?" Ronin asked hopefully. "Better," she promised. Back in the Royal Sanctum, the fire in the hearth was roaring, but Ronin was still shaking, the deep chill of the arena lingering in his marrow. He sat on the edge of the bed, buried in furs, but he couldn't stop shivering. Elara dismissed the servants. She stood before him, the new queen of the Glacians, and undid the clasps of her frost silk gown. It fell to the floor in a shimmer of blue. Beneath, she wore a simple shift of white silk. "Elara, what are you—" "Thermal exchange," she said, her voice trembling slightly but not from cold. "It is the most efficient way to restore core temperature, and I find I have developed a craving for the fire." She climbed into the bed, pushing aside the furs to slide in beside him. The shock of her cool skin against his was jarring at first, but then the physics took over. His body, a furnace of metabolism, poured heat into her. Her body, a heat sink, drew the chill out of him. It was a perfect equilibrium. She wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his neck. "You saved my throne today, Ronin." "Just doing my job," he murmured, his shivering finally subsiding as he held her close. The scent of lilacs filled his head. "No." She pulled back to look at him. Her violet eyes searched his, finding the truth he tried to hide behind his bravado. "You gave up your skin for me. You fought a High Lord for me. That is not a job. That is—" "Stubbornness?" he suggested. "Devotion," she corrected. She leaned in, her lips brushing his. They were cool, soothing against his feverish mouth. "You are my Ember-Heart, and I will not let you return to the cold." Ronin kissed her back, a slow, deep claiming that had nothing to do with politics and everything to do with the fact that he had never felt warmer in his life. "I guess I can stick around for a while," he whispered against her lips. "At least until my suit is fixed." "Your suit is lost," Elara lied, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "It seems we will have to keep you warm the old-fashioned way." Ronin smiled, pulling the royal furs over them both. "I think I can live with that." He had given his suit to an alien and expected to die. Instead, he woke up wrapped in royal furs, holding a queen who looked at him like he was the sun itself. It was a strange universe, Ronin decided, but he wouldn't trade it for anything.